this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Welcome in, Thursday edition, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton show. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us. 555 some odd stations nationwide, all 50 states, even including New Mexico, which I'm told is a state. And we are right now.
I just want to point out that New Mexico listeners, your calls have been heard, your emails have been read. We will get to them today. You have risen up for Clay's scalp like Geronimo of old.
I want to be clear on this, too. I would like to apologize to the people of New Mexico. Instead of giving up New Mexico, increasingly I'm thinking we should give up Minnesota because the state has completely lost its mind. Maybe Canada would do better with everyone in Minnesota. And I'm trying to start with a little bit of frivolity because, sadly, people on the left in Minneapolis have completely lost their minds. And I know we may talk about this with New York City, or we may talk about it with Los Angeles, or we may talk about it with Chicago, places that we're not surprised that chaos often descends and poor choices are made. But I do think it's emblematic of the woke mind virus, what has happened in Minneapolis in particular, because many of us, myself included, sort of think of Minneapolis as a relatively reasonable, not particularly crazy place. And yet this is going on right now in the wake of the shooting. Kristi Noem is right now actually having a press conference to discuss from New York City. Just ended the fact that this was a justified shooting. But listen to what it sounds like. These are ICE agents surrounding getting assaulted this morning in Minneapolis by a bunch of crazy left-wingers. Cut one. We had all sorts of crazy things that were said yesterday by Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis, by the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. And Tommy Lahren asked a question. She's at Outkick. She now hosts the Fox Saturday show. And I thought it was a really good one, Buck. And I don't know how much time you spent thinking about it, but I do think it's important and worthy of discussing. How did this woman end up in a position where in her free time, 37-year-old white mom from, I believe, Colorado originally, who had moved to Minneapolis at some point in time, decides that it is her duty to be showing up in her car to try to harass people who are doing their job on behalf of ICE, such that she ends up losing her life there. I think while it is a specific incident, it is emblematic of what I think is a rotten core that the Democrat Party has created among much of their base. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, to me, the sort of intellectual linchpin, as it were, of the Democrat Party has become these white liberal women. And this woman is just showing up in the middle of a day in a car harassing the ICE agents. And that ultimately led to this shooting.
Well, Clay, there's some would say fabulous book coming out next month that addresses this very phenomenon. The book is Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You. Goes into mass hysteria and authoritarian and totalitarian mind control tactics that get people to do things from blow themselves up in suicide bombing to lie down in streets to stop climate change to these are irrational. These are absurd, insane acts. And yet we see it time and time again. For this woman, she's from Colorado, right? To show up. By the way, pre-orders available, Manufacturing Delusion, wherever fine books are sold. Go get them. Go get it hooked up. Oh, you thought you were shameless, Clay. You're on book number 5. This is book number 1 for me, buddy. And this may be one and done. So my shamelessness is gonna, you're going to be like, whoa, Buck, a little too much selling, buddy, a little too much selling. But no, really, please go get because they'll do more prints of it. So please go get your pre-orders going now. Manufacturing Delusion, clayandbuck.com. We've got a link up there too if you want to get them, nice and easy. But no, the book really does deal with this because this has been, how do you make people so crazy? I mean, this is my fundamental question about the Democrat Party. Really became during COVID, Clay, a near obsession of mine and yours, because you also were like, hey, masks, guys, we all know this is stupid, right? And no, actually, they did not. Everyone did not all know that this was stupid, which was a shock to a lot of people. There's something wrong and deranged about the Democrat base, and we see this playing out over and over again, whether it is a celebration of Charlie Kirk's assassination, wrong, deranged, deeply unsettling, or the desire to take your hands and superglue them to priceless works of Renaissance art because of climate change, or in this case, to try to use your car to stop immigrations and customs enforcement officers from enforcing the law. This woman, it's sad that she died, and I wish that she was still alive, but this woman seems to think that she gets to nullify federal immigration law, and she doesn't. Nor do any of these other protesters and maniacs who run around now and threaten and harass and impede law enforcement efforts. And you'll notice not a single Democrat, Clay, will speak out in defense of ICE as a general matter. Not a single Democrat will say these are federal law enforcement officers in the conduct of their duties. What does that tell you about whether Democrats really respect the law?
No, look, I mean, Democrats respect the law only as it pertains to whatever happened on January 6th, which they obsessively marinate in. Otherwise, they think that police, law enforcement, ICE officials are awful human beings who are unworthy of respect. And look, I understand that people have different caliber jobs. There really needs to be an investigation into how in the world can all of these people show up at noon on a random Thursday in January and be harassing all of these ICE agents. I mean, first of all, I thought, maybe I was wrong, I thought, hey, it's so cold in Minneapolis right now. People are not going to be willing to go stand out in the frigid cold and protest. You got this right. And I do think it was when all the college kids were protesting on campus, we pointed out that it didn't happen in January and February, that everybody took over Columbia's campus in New York City. It only got to happen when it was April and May and the weather starts to get pretty good and it's not that bad to be outside. And like,
you only want to save democracy on campus when you can play hacky sack barefoot in the quad. That's the rule.
Totally. And I'll be honest with you. I remember back in the day when I was in college, when the weather was perfect, it was a lot more fun to go get a beer on the patio, right? Like, you want to be outside, you want to be hanging out. I'm watching right now live on Fox News. There are hundreds, if not thousands of people that are showing up and harassing these ICE agents as they are trying to do their job in the middle of the day in Minneapolis. The reason I'm asking this is somebody's paying for this. Right? I don't buy that this is a completely organic thing that people are just showing up and they're deciding, hey, I'm going to stand out in the cold in Minneapolis and protest ICE and harass all of these ICE agents, which, by the way, they want to have another incident of violence. This is what they really want to have happen. They're going to claim that they were horrified by what happened to the woman who was shot in Minneapolis, this moronic mom who put herself in this situation that led to her death. But really, they want it to happen. They want her to be shot because it allows them to argue, oh, look at these jackbooted thug ICE agents that are coming into our communities and now killing innocent people, moms. My question is, and I do think it's a good one, who's paying for this? And second, what in the world is going on that a mom, I think it's a single parent mom, so she's the only parent of her child, is deciding that she should be spending her time driving her vehicle to try to obstruct ICE agents from being able to do their jobs? What have we created when her death is something that in many ways, let's be honest, the left is celebrating? They want it to happen. And where exactly is it all going to go from here? Because unfortunately, they want more violence. That is their goal. And I think that's what they're hoping is going to occur.
I think that they're going to rally around this now. It's obviously a midterm election year. and you're going to see a lot more of this. And everything that you had heard last year from Democrats about, oh, Biden made some mistakes on the border, maybe we should have. No. Now it's going to be Trump is racist, xenophobic, the border, ICE are jackbooted thugs. I mean, you're going to hear all of this craziness in the hopes that the people listening, enough of them, will forget about what was said before and will not be able to figure out that there is no principle at work here for these Democrats. They can't even tell us what exactly is the alternative to having ICE agents apprehend and deport people from the American interior. What is the alternative to this? The alternative is millions and millions of people get to stay in the country forever in violation of our laws. And as we see, go on welfare, take money from us, money from the American people, which I might add, if you don't pay, you go to prison. So you are told to pay taxes under threat of your freedom so that foreigners from the third world can come here by the millions, avail themselves to whatever benefits they can legally and illegally. And if you have a problem with that, you're a bad person. This is actually where the Democrat Party is, I might add. There won't be anyone who comes forward to debate this issue from the Democrat side because they are not capable of winning elections if they speak clearly and honestly about how they feel when it comes to immigration enforcement. They don't want immigration to be enforced.
All of that is true. Let me also point something else out now that I've got my handy quad box so I can see what everybody is being exposed to on a day-to-day basis on MSNBC. Not as a huge fan like Buck Sexton is, but just so that I am here for all of you.
Oh, you're sneaking some looks in your quad box at Morning Joe in the morning, drinking your Crockett coffee. Come on now.
They are not showing the video that clearly illustrates that this guy had contact made with him on the shooting. They're constantly repeating, because if you watch one of the videos, it's very hard to see who his shooter is, and it looks like he comes from the side and shoots because of the way the video is shot. They're not showing the one, which I want to make sure that we reinforce so that you can watch it for yourself, where you see that this guy was directly in front of the car and that she made contact with him in an aggressive manner. They're not showing that video. Now, I do think that there has been a little bit of, oh, this was a cold-blooded murder dialed back because of that video. And this is where I'll point out for you, Buck, I think is very true. The fact that we almost never hear about unjustified shootings now because there's way more cameras. This shooting that I have seen, the angle of it that is the best, again, they keep showing the not primary angle, is the one that appears to come maybe off a house or off a building down the street, which clearly shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was in front of her and that he was being struck at the time that he fired that shot. So again, they want more of this. This is the reality. They are desperately hoping that ICE kills someone else because that is their undoubted goal.
Well, they want to turn the American people against immigration enforcement because they can't make an argument about it. It has to be based on some false martyrdom narrative. Because the argument, Clay, they would have to make is Biden let 10 million people into this country. They all get to stay. Yes. And in fact, we should do that again as Democrats the next time we have the White House. Let's let another 10 million in and another 10 million, because you know what we need? A lot more frauds like we see in Minneapolis from the Somali community. And by the way, that is just the tip of the iceberg for what is happening with so many of these government programs, especially as they pertain to issues that might be politically sensitive or politically protected. So it's, child care, for example. Oh, you don't want money for child care? You don't want local community money for well, it's actually just going into people's bank accounts and not taking care of any kids. This is across the country. Just Minnesota is particularly egregious with this. So something else that they don't want us to look at. And also how many illegals are getting, they always tell us illegals don't get welfare. That is a lie. It is always a lie. They get all kinds of benefits that they're not supposed to have access to, but we'll come back into this momentarily. Certain things happen more often in January than any other month, and one of them is committing ourselves to dieting, and some people do dry January, but cutting back on expenses after a usually a profligate Christmas period. There's my word of the day. The list goes on and on. So if you want to cut back some expenses, how about looking at your cell phone bill? Using this month to start saving $50 a month or more on that cell phone bill. All you have to do is switch your cell phone service to my carrier, Pure Talk. You may save $600 to $1,000 this year alone. Pure Talk saves you 50% or more off your existing cell phone bill without sacrificing any quality of service. That's because Pure Talk operates on the same cell towers and the same network as one of the bigger cell phone companies, but without all the overhead expenses. You get great 5G coverage on the nation's largest network. Your cost can be as low as $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck. Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team will help you switch in minutes. Again, talk, text, and data for just $20 a month. Once more, dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck. You'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
Making America great again isn't just one man. It's many. The Team 47 Podcast. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back in here to Clay and Buck. Momentarily, we're going to have producer Allie's coming up now. We're going to have Vance and Levitt. Can we go to it first? Let's hear what they're saying. Let's hear what the vice president and Caroline Levitt from the White House are saying about the situation in Minnesota. Let's take it live. Hit it.
Of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before. And everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz earlier today. He said, when things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now. Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
Vice President, a related question here. I mean, Democrats have accused ICE of murder. They've said they're targeting Americans. They've told ICE to get the F out of Minnesota. This is going to stoke the fire against ICE agents, and you're talking about ICE agents right now and being concerned about them. What, if anything, is the administration going to do to make sure these folks are protected during these protests? But also, should DHS sort of revisit their procedures here? I mean, nobody wants to see an American killed. Are there changes that need to be made to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Look, first of all, of course, nobody wants an American citizen to be killed. This is absolutely a tragedy, but it's a tragedy of the making of the far left. They have radicalized a very small segment of the population, taught them that ICE agents are engaging in wide-scale violation of people's rights. What our ICE officers are doing is deporting the millions of criminal aliens that were let in during the Biden administration. So number one, we have to say, as a matter of leadership, and I would appreciate if the Democrats would join me on this, let's be honest about the fact that we have way too many illegal aliens in this country. Our ICE officers should be supported in doing their job. You're trying to actually marshal the far left lunatic fringe to engage in doxing, to try to make it impossible for them to enforce the law, and in some cases actually to engage in acts of domestic terrorism against our law enforcement officers. When you talk about different plans, different protocols, different policies, I forget exactly how you asked the question. Here's the simple fact. What we're going to do is make it easier for the American People's Administration to enforce the American people's law. And that means that Democrats have to stop rallying the mob against legitimate law enforcement operations. And that means that we are going to get tougher. And that's what this AAG position is about. We're going to get tougher at the people who are defrauding the United States by inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's one of the things that we're going to do. We've already started that work at the Department of Justice, but we're going to keep on doing it. And this new AAG position is going to kick that into high gear.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out. But here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous. And part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual, her specific acts, that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left, who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies. You don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement. But why don't you take this to the ballot box? Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's been heated rhetoric that we've also heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play out in Minnesota, bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature. And we're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.
Sir,
Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. You said earlier that there's a left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and make it impossible for ICE officers to do their job. You told my colleague just now that there's an investigation going on into that network.
Yep.
So if everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car, and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. What is, I'm sorry, guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The investigation is still ongoing.
I said next question.
Mr. Vice President, I mean, you presumably watched the video yourself. There's not the slightest doubt in your mind, having viewed it, that the victim, you still believe that she deliberately tried to ram him despite seeing this video?
Look, I don't know what is in a person's heart or in a person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I am certain of is that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder, which is what many of you have said explicitly and some of you have said implicitly. That's what I have an objection to. The idea that this was not justified is absurd, and I think everybody knows it in their heart. Yeah.
All right. We gotta leave it there for a second, Clay. That we usually don't take something live for that long unless it's like a presidential address during the show. That was an absolute clinic.
Masterclass.
JD Vance, masterclass. That was, whew, man. I gotta say, I gotta take a walk after that one. I gotta go.
Let me also point this as you get ready to do your read. CNN, to their credit, has covered that entire press conference. This is my quad box. Obviously, Fox News is covering it. Not 1 minute of J.D. Vance talking has been covered by MSNBC.
Of course.
Not 1 minute.
Because they need to use this for ratings and for emotional impact as long as they can. And J.D. just threw cold water all over that. Because his point is absolutely correct, which is you can say maybe the woman was trying to do this or that, but to say that this cop committed murder is insane. Okay?
Yes.
It's insane. So that's where we are. We got video. We can see the video. She forced this situation. It's very sad. What she did was very dumb. She shouldn't, have paid for it with her life, but it's not the cop's fault that, in this case, the ICE officer's fault that he defended himself under the situation. Not his fault criminally, not his fault, ethically. All right. We'll come back into this. You want to be fired up like JD Vance? Because that was pretty impressive. I gotta say, JD's like me. He's actually been, upping his fitness regimen in recent years. JD used to be a little puffy. I got a little puffy doing this show. Got the dad bod before I became a dad. You can't have that. You want to stay fit. You want to stay energized. You want to stay focused. Chalk is part of my fitness transformation. You should make it part of yours too. It's not just about fitness too. It's about your day-to-day energy, drive, ability to get things done. Chalk is so helpful. Their male vitality stack is a bestseller for good reason. It's formulated to help restore testosterone levels by providing you with more energy and drive. Men's T levels are dropping off historically, my friends. It's terrible what's going on out there. Chalk can help you replenish some of that T up to 20% in 3 months' time. Take on 2026 with a boost in your strength and mental clarity. Go to ChalkCHOQ.com. Go after it JD Vance style, my friends. Every day, do it like Vance does, dealing with those sillies in the media. Go to ChalkCHOQ.com, CHOQ.com. Use promo code, use promo code Buck, or you can go to chalk.com/Buck, BUCK.
You ain't imagining it. The world has gone insane. Reclaim your sanity with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in. Hour number 3, Thursday edition, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton show. This press conference is continuing, by the way, as JD Vance is continuing to take questions. In fact, literally as I just said that, he is now walking out of the White House press briefing room alongside of Caroline Leavitt. Answered questions for roughly 25 minutes or so, I would say, Buck. Also, DHS has just released information. JD Vance mentioned this. We're about to be joined by Katie Zachariah. We'll bring her in on this as well. This past summer, this same ICE agent who fired the shot was dragged 50 yards in Bloomington, Minnesota by an individual who refused to stop when commanded to do so. And this is the release from June 18th, 2025, that was just sent to me. During a traffic stop, this individual refused to exit his vehicle or stop. He tried to flee law enforcement, put his car in drive while the ICE officer still had his arm inside the vehicle, dragging the officer approximately 50 yards. The criminal illegal alien was then arrested. The ICE officer was hospitalized with significant injuries. This is, according to DHS, the same individual who fired the shots in what he probably saw to be potentially a very, very similar situation, as he felt that he was in peril, having already been dragged by someone who refused to stop. So that is information that is coming out. Katie Zachariah joins us now. Katie, I think you're a mom of 4. This individual who was shot is a mom of 3. You probably talk to a lot of moms, as all moms do. How do you think we end up in this situation where the Democrats have convinced a mother of 3 that she should be in a car trying to obstruct ICE raids, and it led to this unfortunate outcome?
Looking at Hillary Clinton's tweet today, not condemning the behavior towards the ICE agent, but enabling the protesters, it's a direct line coming from the very top of the Democrat Party. We see it out here with Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom enabling the violent rhetoric against ICE agents, essentially upending support for federal law enforcement and encouraging people to either stand in the way or drive against. I mean, they're not necessarily saying it, but they're insinuating that you should fight back against these ICE agents. And time again, we're seeing ICE agents are being injured. Their families are being doxxed. It's why they are masked and to protect their identities. And it's continuing through, it's pulsing through the Democrat Party to fight ICE. And it's so disgusting and disturbing because they are just fixing the problems that the Democrats themselves created.
You know, one of the things that's also gotten a lot of attention, Katie, recently is the extent of fraud within the illegal and legal immigrant community as it exists in Minneapolis. And some people have already started to raise, I know you're a Californian, you pay very close attention to the political situation in your home state. They're saying if it's this bad in Minnesota, the fraud, it's got to be even worse in California. You already mentioned ICE agents, they can get no help whatsoever from state and local authorities. If anything, they get obstruction from state and local authorities in your state. But on the fraud side of things, when it comes to communities that Gavin Newsom wants to try to garner favor with, do we have any sense as to how much worse that actually is or how much bigger it is than what we've seen in Minnesota?
Well, California is an enormous state, and going higher level than this, than California and Minnesota, the president signed an executive order in April on sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and jurisdictions, essentially saying that they're in violation of the Supremacy Clause and his Article 2 powers. And yes, they are. And so what should happen as a first step is there should be a suspension of all federal aid to any city or state that continues these sanctuary policies. Look, sanctuary city in Minnesota, sanctuary cities in California. And there is a clear pattern of behavior from these states and jurisdictions that say the laws of the land don't apply to us. So we're going to funnel money. We're going to, have these fraudulent daycare centers. We're going to have illegals residing here, and we're going to quote protect them with this dystopian language that it's a sanctuary, really in violation of the Supremacy Clause. So out in California, even Ro Khanna, who is a hard Democrat, has said, I want to investigate the $72 billion of fraud that has been under Gavin Newsom's watch. And if he's highlighting $72 billion, we know it's probably double or even more. And that's not even touching the NGOs that have been funneling money and these daycare centers that now are being exposed in San Diego right here under Gavin Newsom's watch.
Katie, thanks for coming on, and we expected we would talk more about this, but obviously the situation in Minneapolis took off. It's basically the 1-year anniversary of the wildfires in California. And I was reading quite a lot about them. In fact, when I was up at the FIFA World Cup event, one of the women who lost her home came up to me and said, will you please talk about how slow the rebuild is going in LA? A lot of people are not paying attention to it, but it is a total mess in Malibu and Altadena, in Pacific Palisades. What is the story there? What can you tell us about on the ground, what LA is like now 1 year after those wildfires?
We were in the Pacific Palisades last night, and not one home there might be the beginning of construction, but not one full home has been rebuilt a year after a year in the Pacific Palisades. And what we've seen is Gavin Newsom 2 days ago was saying to MS Now, look, the debris removal has been incredible, but President Trump hasn't offered any solutions. Actually, the Army Corps of Engineers is federal. FEMA is federal. The EPA removing hazardous waste is federal. And I got to visit the whole site of the Palisades with Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator. And those effective policies have all been from President Trump. All debris removal has been on the federal side. Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have not essentially cut all the red tape to help promote rebuild. They have allowed the California Coastal Commission and these other environmental agencies to tie up people in the permit process. And the homeowners insurance and the fire insurance, they are not putting any pressure on them to deliver results for these people. So what we're seeing is, as I'm driving down the coast, as I'm driving through the Palisades, it's for sale signs everywhere. And these people are losing huge property value because they've gone down to, I think, 40% are some of the numbers we were hearing yesterday. So they're not going to be able to get a return on this, yet they're paying property taxes and standing mortgages on lots that they can't even live on.
Katie, speaking of for sale signs, there's been some recent movement among some of the billionaires in your home state of California. I think actually one of them, not Sergey, the other one from Larry Page, does that sound right, from Google, just bought $140 million property, a little ways from where I currently am right now in Miami. So there's already been some movement among these billionaires to move out of your state because there's a billionaire wealth tax that actually is being considered. Can you tell us about the status of that?
On the other side of Ro Khanna, this is his proposal to tax 5% billionaire tax. And it would be, if passed, it would be retroactive to January 1st of this year for these billionaires. And here's the issue. You start digging into the bill, to this proposal, to this quote act, and it's to fund 90% for Medi-Cal, 90% for healthcare. Now let's go back in time to when Gavin Newsom decided to promote free healthcare for illegal immigrants on the back of the California taxpayer. Free. It's not free, including sex changes for illegal immigrants. Now, he went to the tune of $23 billion uncovered that we spent on illegal immigrant healthcare. He made the entire Medi-Cal system insolvent. Begged the federal government for a $3.4 billion loan for Medi-Cal. And now their proposal is to tax our most successful, are the people that actually bring industry and generate wealth in California. And they're going to punish this group of people for their failed and reckless policies. It is just really the nail in the coffin. If you want to drive any further success out of California, this 5% billionaire tax will surely do it.
Katie, I mentioned again the 4 kids. I thought, again, this is under the radar. It's big news. What is the reaction that you have heard among sort of the Maha Mom movement, which is an intriguing collection of people based on the big news about the food pyramid from RFK Jr. and also the decisions about what vaccines should or should not be given to kids? Again, Minneapolis has kind of snowed under a lot of these stories, but that was a pretty significant announcement yesterday.
So significant. And being out in California is this weird combination of Maha, once liberal, love RFK Jr., have really gravitated towards him and kind of clung on to him because he's coming out here from Santa Monica Mountains from California. And really, I think it's been interesting because the Maha moms are incredibly excited, and also these moderate, semi-liberal moms out of California who are anti-vax and pro a reversal of the food pyramid and getting rid of all of these food dyes. I think there is this weird excitement that President Trump is actually delivering on what he said he would. And to see it, though, I mean, I think for me, it's something I've known for many years, and I'm sure you have too. And for my kids, I apply the same logic. That vaccine schedule was actually really scary to look at how many vaccines these kids were getting from birth, and unnecessarily so. And I'll speak very personally. My third born son had a reaction to the Hib vaccine, which is the bacterial meningitis, which they rescinded. RFK Jr. did rescind. And I was really happy to see that because I, for one, witnessed this. And just that RFK Jr. and President Trump is empowering him to do so, that they're willing to question Big Pharma and say maybe this schedule is not good for the United States and the children of the U.S. So we do even have some liberal moms out here in California celebrating this historic change to our food pyramid and vaccine schedule.
Are we going to make an interesting run of it for a Republican in the governor's race? Our buddy Steve Hilton. I know you know Steve. He's on the show. He says he's going to get at least Gavin Newsom on that debate stage and make a fool of him. What do you think?
Well,
I'm sorry, not Newsom. Sorry, not Newsom. Whoever the guy, it's going to be Katie Porter or somebody else. You know what I mean?
Well, man, that would be fun if it was Katie Porter, as we all witnessed. But I think what we're starting to see is Eric Swalwell / Fong Fong. No, I'm just kidding. Eric Swalwell and maybe Steve Hilton. But for sure, Steve Hilton is working around the clock. I was with him in the Palisades, and right after he said, I have to go to this other event and this other event. And you can tell that he's so interested in looking for solutions for Californians. And that's such a breath of fresh air because I have not seen anyone, except maybe outside of President Trump on a national level, but on a local level, trying to find any talent, any leadership that says, there's a problem and I want to fix it. Steve Hilton is out there doing that. That man, I think he's in Sacramento and LA all in the same day. I've never seen anyone around the clock work so hard for California. And he's not even elected yet.
Amazing. Katie Zachariah, everybody. Katie, where should they go follow you on social and see more of you? I know you're on Fox or on Newsmax. You're everywhere these days.
Katie Zachariah on X and Instagram, and I think I should probably make a Facebook page here, but that's it for now.
Awesome. Katie, thank you so much. We'll be talking to you more. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My iPhone has thousands of pictures and video on it. I hesitate to tell you how many. It's just like too many. But that's what happens when you have the cutest little guy in the world. That's a little speed. And of course, Ginger Spice. She's very cute too and very fluffy. But back in the day, if you were taking photos or videos of your little ones, you took film in for developing, then you had photographs that ended up in albums or maybe now shoe boxes or an attic somewhere. Same was true for those VHS tapes you had if it was video cam time. You don't want to throw memories away. Over time, those photos and videos disintegrate. You lose them. They don't make it for the next move. That's why it's so important to digitally transfer them onto digital files. Legacy Box has done this for 1.5 million families. Go online to legacybox.com/buck to get started. Right now, you can save 55% when you preserve your past with Legacy Box. Kick off the new year by rescuing your family's most cherished memories. Go to legacybox.com/buck. That's legacybox.com/buck for 55% off.
News and politics, but also a little comic relief. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. A lot of you reacting to as we continue to follow Minneapolis and more. We got a ton of talkbacks. Let's dive into some of those that have been put together. Encourage you guys, as always, fastest way to get the show. This is the reality. Fastest way to get the show and easiest way to get your voice heard on the show is the talkback. iHeart app. It's super easy to use. Give us 30 seconds of your best takes on any topic under the sun, and producer Greg will hear them, and you may find yourself here. Let's see. I'm going through. I want to get caught up. BB. David in New Mexico. I don't think we've played BB. I know we played AA. Let's hear BB.
Hey, boys, this is David from New Mexico. Leave us alone. Instead, let's take up a collection and let's sell Minnesota to Canada. I think we should ask maybe $200.
Very funny. I like that New Mexicans, which I'm presuming is what you are called if you live in New Mexico, are deciding that they are going to throw other states under the bus. By the way, my college roommate is a orthopedic surgeon in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He has not weighed in yet on my suggestion that we should just give New Mexico back, but I've abandoned that now, having recognized how much oil value there is. Podcast listener David in Tampa, Florida, used to live in New Mexico, and he actually agrees with me.
Clay and Buck, this is David in Tampa, Florida. I'm a native of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yes, please give it away because they just keep voting Democrat, and that state has become a hellhole. So with the exception of the food, I think the country might be better off without New Mexico.
Brandon in Wisconsin. Lots of good feedback. DD, Brandon,
hey,
what you got
Buck,
for us?
Great job as usual. Brandon from Wisconsin here. As far as selling a state, I think Illinois would be the no-brainer. Solely because deep dish pizza is terrible and everybody knows it.
Ooh,
wow. Throwing heat at deep dish pizza.
Pizza is really good.
You know, Wisconsin there, he just kind of went for a low blow. You know, Wisconsin just decided that Illinois needed to get some dust kicked in his eyes.
I will say the Packers in Green Bay and the Bears in Chicago. I sound like Eddie Murphy on Coming to America. There's a lot of discord between Chicago and Minnesota and Wisconsin. Certainly the Brewers factor in there too. So he's just wrong on deep dish pizza though. I think it's amazing. Podcast listener Jim, he has another idea of what we should trade away.
Clay, the obvious answer is Puerto Rico. The Democrats have been saber rattling forever now about making it a state. Fine, make it a state and then sell it off. Hell, just give it away. You still kill two birds with one stone.
This is going to stun people. I may live in Puerto Rico someday.
I thought you were going to say you're licensed to practice law in Puerto Rico too.
I'm not licensed in Puerto Rico. I'm licensed in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Do you know this is true? Do you know that you can qualify as a business in Puerto Rico, also in the U.S. Virgin Islands, 4% tax?
Yes.
You can qualify and pay 4% tax if you base your business there. I know people who have done it. Both of those places are beautiful. My kids are too young right now. I've got an 11-year-old. This is 100% true. In 7 years, you may sit down one day and all of a sudden you're just going to be like, wait, Clay Travis just lives in Puerto Rico? Clay Travis lives in the Virgin Islands? Why the hell am I going to give people 40% of my income for the rest of my life? 4%, it is an incredible opportunity there. So I would not give away
people do it so they can sell their business at that. When they have the transaction of selling a business that they've built, they'll move to Puerto Rico. I actually know a lawyer who specialized in making sure, because if you have a big ticket business that an Outkick situation and you claim that you live in Puerto Rico, they're gonna come after you, because that's one of those moments where it's really worth it for the tax authorities. So you got to make sure you are ironclad with. He said that you have to really be there for 2 years, in order to claim that you're free and clear of that, for the sale purpose of getting that 4% tax.
Look, I'm a licensed attorney in the U.S. Virgin Islands and have been since 2004. I may start a new media company and it may be based down in the Caribbean at some point, and I may get a 4% tax rate and people are going to be angry and I'm going to be a genius.
Can I ask you something? Because we had that heat from the deep dish pizza conversation a second ago here, which, there's a really good, one of the really, Lou Malnati's makes a gluten-free deep dish. So I got to say that was delicious. It was like 4,000 calories that I put away in one sitting, but it was delicious. I can't throw shade at that. We haven't upset enough people about their like regional living or state or anything else today, so I feel like we can keep going. Let's upset some more people. What is the food that a place is known for that you think is the most overrated? This is a tough one.
Well,
I've got an answer for you.
I've got an answer for you. It's not necessarily the United States. It's England. Fish and chips.
No.
I'm throwing England. I'm throwing England.
That's a dodge.
The criticism I have of England is your national culinary delicacy is basically Captain D's. It's like breaded fish and it's French fries. Like, that's awful.
We can't go foreign countries on this, Clay. I want you to upset a region of America, a city, perhaps even
Do you have
an area.
answer? What is your answer? You
know
know something
question.
that's awful? Yeah.
Oh, Philadelphia cheesesteak is the most disappointing.
I like the cheesesteak. I think it's really
Pat's
good.
and Geno's, those places. I went to both when I was in Philly. The steak is trash. It's not good. I do not like these things.
Like a Philly cheesesteak. I think that's really good.
No, a Philly cheesesteak can be good, but the version of the Philly cheesesteak you tend to get in Philadelphia, not good.
Oh,
I people can get mad at me. I'm speaking the truth, and everybody, the cheese whiz, that stuff is disgusting. It's going to be like fake cheese for another 100 years on the shelf. It's gross.
Our boss, Julie Talbot's going to be on me. I probably know more about alcohol than I do food because I'm not exactly a culinary artist. I'm going to come back to it again. The mint julep.
No, you're just going to get us so much hate over this.
I'm sorry.
I like the mint julep. I'm not with you on this. You're alone on this one.
Look, I like it. I like alcohol. I'm not going to sit around and say, and the more mint juleps you drink, the better they are. And Michael's going to be upset, Julie's husband, because the first thing I did when we got to the Kentucky Derby, he had a mint julep for me.
What is the most disgusting hard liquor? What is the most disgusting type of hard liquor? This is an easy answer. You should be able to hit this right away.
Jägermeister.
Yeah, 100%.
We didn't clear this in advance.
I would rather drink like NyQuil in excess than drink Jägermeister. It's disgusting.
You remember when Jaeger bombs were super popular?
Oh, of course.
You were you were on the dating circuit in a big way with the Jaeger bomb era.
Well, I did a lot of Jaeger bombs on dates, Clay. I don't know what you think it was like for young Buck on the dating scene.
I want to get as many Jaeger bombs in as possible, make the date as enjoyable as possible. Jaeger bombs I think Jaeger bomb is probably the worst. For people who don't know, that was not a complicated mix. It was just Jaeger, which is it even makes me cringe to think about it, and Red Bull. Like, Red Bull, by the way, not very good by itself anyway. I don't think Red Bull is going to be signing up to sponsor. Here is the most underrated drink, and I promise that I have a functional penis. I'm going to tell you 2 drinks that are underrated but I promise that I'm a heterosexual man. One is the espresso martini. The espresso martini has surged in popularity of late. You got a great coffee mix with liquor, get a little bit more of energy if you're out late. Espresso martini, very good order. The other one, and I get made fun of this by my wife all the time. The other one, sangria. I think sangria is the most consistently underrated, like nice, uplifting drink that is out there. Now, look, my go-to order to protect myself is an old-fashioned. I go old-fashioned. That is my go-to drink. That is a very masculine drink. But the 2 most underrated drinks at the bar right now, sangria and espresso martini.
I actually can't throw shade at either one of them. I was hoping you were going to say Cosmo, and then we were just going to open up the lines for the rest of the show to have all the guys call in and make fun of you for that. Like all of our truckers, we're just going to line up truck to truck and just call in. But espresso martini is actually delicious. I can't lie.
It's surged in like the last 3 or 4 years. Laura, who likes to argue with me, my wife, was saying, there's not actual coffee in espresso martinis. I was like, yes, it's not just a coffee flavor. And I was proven correct on this.
I got to tell you, my wife bought, as part of a Christmas gift to ourselves, we have, obviously I use the Crockett coffee beans, but we don't have a Crockett coffee maker yet. So I had to buy one of these like fancy pants big machines.
Yeah.
The amount of, I swear, I feel like I am, I don't know if I'm like a rocket scientist or a chemical engineer or something. The amount of things that I have to do to keep this machine running so I can drink my Crockett coffee in the morning. The amount of cleanings and rinsings and this and that, and I got to do all these things all the time. I feel like I work for my coffee machine. Like it's my employer now in the morning, and I have to do whatever I need to make it. You don't have one of these. We got like it can make you like the fanciest, foamiest, delicious coffee things.
I go straight with the Keurig already basically ready Crockett coffee. Boom, put it in, and then like I just drink it out of my best dad ever mug here with coffee.
That's very solid. I wonder if I'm going to get lit up on the cheesesteak thing. It's not that a cheesesteak cannot be good. If you were to have high quality steak and and actual onions and peppers that were sliced up and everything else, but the cheesesteak places that I've been to in Philly,
I thought Pat's and Geno's were both good. Now, I don't love the fact that you have to stand in line and you get like 20 seconds to get your order and you have to immediately take it out. Like, I think I agree with you that there are probably places where you could sit and have a cheesesteak that is better.
But like the whiz stuff, the cheese whiz they put on it is just gross. Why use real cheese? We're not in wartime. We're not rationing cheese here. I don't need government cheese. Give me real cheese. This is the thing. Like, I think, for example, Boston chowder, I think all chowders are a little underrated, to be honest with you. A good chowder is amazing. Like a good chowder it's a cold day, nothing better.
I said nice things about Puerto Rico earlier. I have no idea how many people listen to the show in Puerto Rico or spent substantial times in Puerto Rico. Mofongo is like the food of Puerto Rico. It's trash. It's not good. Mofongo.
I don't even know.
I don't know. Maybe culturally insensitive of me. I tried it. People are like, "Oh, you're gonna love mofongo." Mofongo. It's like, no, it's not good. Roadies. I lived in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Roadies not good. Like, I'll throw them under the bus too. Look, there are things that you have that are unique to a particular area that are amazing. Like, you're wrong on cobbler, for instance, which is a fabulous dessert.
Smashed up pie. It's pie for people that made a mistake and don't want to admit it, which is fine. I get it. We all make mistakes, cobbler people, but just admit that you messed up your pie and now you're going with plan B. That's all I'm trying to tell you. It's fine. I will say Wisconsin and its cheese, delicious.
It's hard to go wrong with cheese, although you were just taking a shot at Cheese Whiz.
Well, that's because it's not really cheese, right? But you go around the various regional cuisines. I always think it's funny, too. People in California and people in Texas are like, you can't get tacos like this in New York. We can get good tacos, all right? You guys have good tacos. I'm not knocking them, but like there's a lot of places with good tacos.
Hot chicken in Nashville is really good. Kind of taken off in the last 10 or 15 years. That's a good choice.
This is the time of the Clay and Buck show when it's clear we never actually get to eat lunch and we get hungry, so we're just sitting here talking about food.
Seriously,
we're going to fix the country.
I was sitting around like, I can't believe you're insulting the Philly cheesesteak. That would be amazing.
I want you guys to know, this is the kind of co-host, this is the kind of loyalty I have to my esteemed co-host, Mr. Clay, is that he's getting all this incoming. You know, they're about to blow him up like Los Alamos back in the day here over his New Mexico takedown. So I'm now just throwing myself in front of the bus in Philadelphia, and everybody who loves the Rocky movies is like ready to kick my ass over cheesesteak. So it happens.
Is this me where I'm supposed to tell you about Prize Picks? It is. Prize Picks, incredible business, now available in all 50 states. Tonight, I am going to be watching Miami up against Ole Miss. It is taking place in the Phoenix area, Fiesta Bowl. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. But on Saturday, I'm going to be watching the NFL Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Each of these guys is going to throw touchdown passes. Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, all more on their touchdown passes. They're all playing this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We actually got 5 straight days of playoff football, college Thursday, Friday, then 3 days of the NFL. 7.5 to 1. You get $50 in your account. Again, all 50 states. PrizePicks.com, code Clay, $50 in your account when you play 5. Everyone listening in America can sign up for Prize Picks now. PrizePicks.com, code Clay. That is PrizePicks.com, code Clay.
Want to be in the know when you're on the go? The Team 47 Podcast. Trump highlights from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck Podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.